Senate Republicans today defeated the Disclose Act, a bill designed to require transparency on political donations of more than $10,000. This comes just days after Mitt Romney's super PAC raked in over $20 million just for the month of June. And thanks to Citizens United, which unleashed unlimited and unaccounted for campaign money, that number could eventually reach over $1 billion. To hear Senate Majority Leader Reid tell it, our American democracy is now for sale.
If this flood of outside money continues, the day after the election, 17 angry old white men will wake up and realize they've just bought the country. About 60% or more of these outside dollars are coming from these 17 people.
Robert Reich is professor of economics at University of California at Berkeley and a former labor secretary under President Clinton. He's also the author most recently of Beyond Outrage, though it's hard to see how we could not be outraged at recent doings. Okay, the Supreme Court assumed transparency would prevent corruption after the Citizens United decision. Did Senate Republicans just make fools of the justices, Mr. Reich?
Well, in many ways they did. In the majority of the Supreme Court in Citizens United did assume that Congress would pass some sort of disclosure, so that the majority opinion was based upon disclosure of who was contributing what, and according to the majority of the Supreme Court, that would deter those who were going to give gigantic amounts of money for their own purposes, to make essentially deals to corrupt politicians. But now the Senate has said, Republicans in the Senate have said, no, we're not going to have any disclosure at all. We're going to have all of this done in complete secrecy. So it makes Citizens United even worse.
Secretary Rice, let me play you something former Clinton advisor James Carville said about this on Sunday. Let's take a listen.
The surprising thing at this campaign is the Democratic super PACs have been more influential thus far. Projects USA, American Bridge, they have driven the debate in this campaign much more than the Republican super PAC.
Which leads to an interesting questions. Are Democrats starting to beat the GOP at their own game? And if that's good for the president, does it still amount to selling democracy?
Well, first of all, I don't think that if you look at the amount of money raised by the super PACs, the Republican super PACs, they may not be as effective, as James Carville says, as the Democratic super PACs, but certainly the amounts of money that they're raising are much, much greater. And you also have the second group of things. They're called social welfare organizations. They are so-called charitable organizations, but they are the ones who can take the money in secret. They are the Chamber of Commerce, the Crossroads the organization by the Karl Rove and others. They are the ones that are really very, very secret, and they are also raking in huge amounts of money. And I would say even if the Democrats, surprisingly, and I don't think they will, but even if the Democrats were going to take in more money than Republicans, it still undermines our democracy. I mean, we're still left at the end of the day with a democracy that is bought and owned and basically responsive to millionaires and billionaires and not to average people who can't afford to make these big campaign contributions.
Well, apropos to that, let me read you something that you wrote. Let me quote it. We have an almost unprecedented concentration of wealth and unlimited political spending and secrecy. The mega selling of American democracy is a Republican invention, and the Romney and the GOP are its major beneficiaries. If that's true, what you said in that blog post, what can the rest of us do about it? And do you worry about cynicism spreading like wildfire and leading to millions of Americans simply sitting out this election with their, hind parts on their, hands saying, I can't do anything about it?
Well, I am worried about cynicism. I mean, cynicism, once we're cynical about our democratic system and our system of government, that is the most precious thing we have, our democracy, then essentially those who want to undermine democracy, don't care about democracy, they win. They win hands down. I think that we've got to fight, all of us who care about our democracy, fight for disclosure of who is funding what. We have to fight to repeal Citizens United, even if that takes an amendment to the Constitution. And we've got to fight for campaign financing so that every dollar that is raised over and above, let's say, $500 per person is matched by a pool of money that is available to all major candidates. So there's no advantage in going after the big donors. We've got to fight for this. I mean, look at if we give up on the possibility of fundamental reforms with regard to our system of democracy, then the game is up. Everything else we want is impossible to achieve.
Thank you, my friend, as always, Robert Reich.